Not necessarily, because when people look at me, they just see a young black male.
Like what you're referring to kind of reminds me of an article that I read for a class. I believe the class was American Political Thought. Um, and in that, like one thing I took away was that in terms of, um, other minority groups or other disenfranchised groups, and the relationship between one another, you kind of have two options. You can look at it in terms of coalition, or you can look at it in terms of competition, meaning that, and like my understanding of it was, um, those minority groups either come together to become a greater majority than the white counterparts, or they can individually fight amongst themselves while um, that white population continues to get those resources.
A big negative about the hustle mentality is how people place the responsibility of their outcomes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think like with hustle mentality, or just like that whole stigma, is that a lot of people make it sound easier than what it is.
But anyway, so they came here to escape that, and to escape that, they put themselves in a position of what they were trying to escape, and then everybody else they just like separated and kept low, like the field workers and stuff like that. Even before slavery of like black people or Africans, they did that to each other, and so it created that system. It created that system of capitalism. People in the past didn't know that to make ourselves more comfortable would eventually mean that we're so comfortable that we have to find a way to make hardship for each other. And that shit is deep, man. It's really deep, because like we are our natural enemy. Within this system, those people who like are actually helping people, are actually like helping the community, helping society, they are they're kind of like beat down, and like even if they do make good money, like they you gotta work so hard just to help out this world. So it's like people would rather not do that if they can make more money. But yeah, usually like making the area nicer and like changing it, like around Ponce City Market, like all that stuff. That used to be the hood, man. All that stuff used to be the hood. You used to like Boulevard was dangerous, and now it's like you got white people riding birds and shit around there. It's crazy.
If you're all of a sudden placed into a environment that has access to all the resources that you feel you may need, in some ways that might be a certain culture shock. You can't just, I don't know. I'm conflicted. The blaringly obvious thing that jumps out to me is that they paint the picture of the community being magical and being historic and all these great things with positive connotations, but they do so without um, paying homage to the community who helped to make it a magical and historic place. People are intrigued, or maybe to a certain extent even obsessed with Black culture, but aren't obsessed with the idea of elevating Black people.
Dude, I think about it all the time. Like it's dope. Like growing up here, man. Like I said, like growing up, it was just all black people mostly. But I was, it was awesome seeing that, and like everyone's like just smart, hilarious, creative as fuck. Like the music coming out the city is dope. As I got older, I'm tapping in more with people in the city and just, doing business with like a lot of the shops, tattoo shops, skate shops, all that stuff. It's just real cool to see, bro. Like, especially with everything going on in like America. Like it's almost like that Black Wall Street stuff, bro. And you got like rich black people out here too. You know what I mean? People like doing good.
So Atlanta's booming, which is amazing. I love that. I love that for the city, but it's gotten to the point where like it's people are coming here because of the culture, and then destroying the culture by coming here and overpopulating with people that aren't a part of that culture. So it's like they're literally gentrifying Atlanta because they love everything Atlanta stands for, but they don't stand for that.
Just relocating in general can be expensive. And I think it's just problematic to kind of in terms of capitalism, treating other people's lives and livelihood like a game of Monopoly. And
they were literally building this stadium and building all this stuff in like one of the poorest places in the world to try to like bring money into the city. But it's like, why do you have to spend millions and millions of dollars to build this thing? Why not just give that money to the people? Like give that money to that economy and hopefully that like money circulates and stuff like that.
You have to be able to sustain the same level of income as the people who are moving in as those prices are rising. Um, if you were one of the original people who chose not to sell or uproot your life and leave your community behind, eventually you're going to have to fall in line, so to speak, and be able to keep up with those changes. And if you're not able to keep up with those changes, you're going to be forced to make decisions sooner than you were expecting to, which is problematic.
Exactly. And you see this going alongside with the housing, alongside with the schools. It's just another tool, like in the gentrification process.
Yeah, so it's more appealing to upper class families, and then it's a lose lose situation for those low income families. It's kind of like in terms of selling your property, it's like damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Even yesterday, I went to go get my teeth cleaned and in Chamblee, and I didn't recognize the area, I didn't recognize the area until I was leaving. I was there at 9 a.m. I left at like 1. Did not recognize where I was. I had literally I spent like a year and a half in that exact area, and the only reason I recognized it was by the train station, and like none of that stuff was there, and it was just like super nice apartments. I was like, well, I didn't even know where I was, man. It was crazy. I spent so much time there. Not a lot, and even when you do hear it, it's kind of like a like intangible thing. It's like we're not the people gentrifying. We're not asking the government to do these things to our neighborhoods and communities. So whenever people talk about it, they're just like, it's kind of like man, this stuff.
Like you said, they're supposed to be taking care of the people and the livelihood, and unfortunately, I have to say that they are. They are taking care of the people. They're just taking care of the people that look like themselves.
I don't know, even like over here by Cross Street Market and stuff like that. You walk over there now, it's like they're just like tearing down all these trees to build a boutique hotel. Who do you think is going to stay in that hotel? The people that like were a part of that culture there before? Like, no, man. They're like, what? They can't even afford to live there anymore. They can't even afford to take an Uber there. I just know there's more to it, and it's really making me sick that they're just like, all right, give them peanuts while we are over here eating caviar, and like they won't know. But even when they do know, what can they do about it? Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah, black men today in the social ladder are not very high, unfortunately. Controlling the narrative is a lot more important than people think in today's society, especially with media being so important and accessible to so many people in so many different places and platforms.
I do see a lot of improvement and growth, and we're doing a lot better as the years go by. You know what I'm saying? A lot of more black men are going to colleges, getting nicer jobs, becoming entrepreneurs, and I know a lot of our base is through entertainment, but we're branching out into other fields. You know, technology, energy, all that good stuff, and it's all from there, bro. Like it's infinite. I think black men are on the rise.
You shut down and you become a little boy. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like they can still take you to jail even if you're not doing anything wrong. So it's like respecting the law wasn't a thing. It was fear of the law.
You get pulled over, you keep your hands on the steering wheel, you don't do anything until they ask you to do anything.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. No, sir.
And then even then they can still take you to jail. Still beat your ass. Like,
Yeah, you being a smart ass?
yeah.
Are you still, although your dad is a police officer, are you still afraid when you get pulled over?
Oh, absolutely. Especially in Sioux City, Iowa, where there's not many people that look like me anywhere.
From being used to being in a certain environment. Like I take my hands out of my pockets when I walk past certain people just because I know that because of the country we live in and the social conditioning that a lot of people have been raised in, that I'm just naturally going to be considered more of a threat to people. You know what I mean?
It's hard for me to believe that there's a big group of people becoming police officers or just like um military personnel or anything like that that really feel like I'm gonna change this from the inside and really believe that they can do that, man. Like it's such a huge beast. It's like how do you take on something like that? I don't know, man. Like it's hard for me to believe that, but I want to believe that. I feel like a part of me will always believe that because I want that to be our reality, even if everything I'm seeing is not true.
Huge, like especially like in my life, I think that it's like such a like a problematic thing that like a lot of times like being just like as someone who's a black man who is about 6'2", been pretty big, like over 240 pounds for most of my life, that more often than I should, I feel almost obligated to somehow appear or come off as less threatening, even if that's like not my intention at all.
We really just, as young black men, I think we need to start putting ourselves in better situations. If we already know what it is, we gotta play the cards we're dealt. So if we know that in our neighborhood, cops are gonna be waiting to catch any young black man with his hood on standing on the corner, then let's not be those guys standing on the corner. Let's go somewhere else. Let's make something else shake. Let's go chill inside or something like that.
We don't need to adjust to society. Society needs to adjust to you, and that's true. But think about it. Think about it like, okay, how do you go from like, okay, I'm this thing, society doesn't accept that. I'm going to accept what society believes, and then eventually I'm going to change it. Like, how do you know when you've gone too deep? Like, how do you know when it's like, once you get to that point, it's been 10, 20 years?
It's true to an extent, but I think it's a really simplistic answer for it.
Yeah, it's unrealistic too.
And like, I think just like a Bruce Lee quote or something like that. Like look at the moon, don't look at the finger, or else you'll miss all the heavenly glory. Like,
wow, I've never heard that quote, but that's wow,
that's a popular one. You gotta, that's looking at the finger.
Yeah.
There's a really big picture going on. Like,
No, like what are we gonna do if we're vilified? They're not even listening, you know. But it takes a lot. Like I do agree with it takes a lot of self awareness and look at and improving oneself so we can put the energy and time in to make these changes and take the necessary steps to pass legislation and get things on the right track, bro. Because we know what it should be and what it is now. And then like as far as history and stuff like that, I do still feel like black people are owed reparations, bro. Like, there's never been no resolve for that. Like we can't get a bill passed to protect us, like other than stuff we have to fight for. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of work done.
like if America was a person, like you think America loves you, what is your relationship with America?
I wouldn't even say like it loves me or it doesn't. It doesn't know I exist, man. Like it's I don't know. It's just it's hard to understand something. It's hard for anybody to like truly understand other people. Like even if you give them all the facts and stuff like that, it's like I get that. I get why that sucks. Like, but that's not their reality. And until you've lived in that reality, you won't ever give, like, America as a person won't ever give these people who are struggling what they need because they've never struggled.
If they don't take into the fact that you can criticize something and still want the best for it. Like just because I say that America has a race problem doesn't mean that America is the worst country in the world or something like that. Like it's not that America is without its problems because it has many problems. The main problem being that it was built on racism, so it's hard to erase racism in the society that we're in. So my relationship with America is conflicted because I understand the opportunities that I am afforded in everyday life, but I'm also aware of the opportunities that I'm missing out on or that could be improved. And I think that I'm in a unique situation just because I mentioned that I feel that I'm privileged in some ways by being a black man who comes from a two-parent household and that was able to go to college and experience so many different things. But at the same time, I know that as a black man, my situation, my personal situation isn't representative of what a lot of people who look like me have to go through. And I think that that struggle in itself should um, should not resonate with me just because I'm a black man. It should resonate with any American who truly believes um, that this country should be equitable. It should be equal opportunities for everyone, not just a certain demographic of people who have had an advantage throughout the years.